Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my review of the book A Knight of the Word by Terry Brooks, the second book in his Word and Void Trilogy. This trilogy is a marked departure for Brooks, as he's most known for his epic fantasy series, which is the Shannara series, as well as his epic fantasy / humorous portal fantasy series, the Magic Kingdom of Landover. But in the late 90s, he decided to also do a urban fantasy trilogy, which is this trilogy. First book was Running with the Demon, second book's A Knight of the Word, and then I can't reach the third book, but the third book is Angel Fire East, which is the next one in the series I will read. And so he wrote this trilogy, and it sold decently well, but it's a very different thing for Brooks. The touchstones of his writing are there in the way he writes the characters and the feel and the magic and all that stuff. But it's also very different because he's setting it in our world instead of a fantasy world, and so it feels similar and different at the same time. I enjoyed the first book, Running with the Demon. I have my full review on the channel if you want to check it out. Basically, I had fun with it, but it's not a particularly, book that I love or anything. It's not a genre that I love particularly, but I wanted to read all of Terry Brooks' books, so that's why I'm crossing it off the list. And then with A Knight of the Word, I just didn't care for it, really. I just felt it was okay. And that is, really unfortunate, that all I felt was, it's just okay. With this book, it does some of the similar things of Running with the Demon okay, and then some of the things it doesn't do as well. I mentioned the atmosphere of Running with the Demon. The atmosphere in The Knight of the Word is just not as strong. Before we got this, it's set in July, it's set right around the 4th of July holiday, there's lots of talk about the heat and the weather, and it was set in the Midwest, and you could just feel suburban Midwest throughout the book, the Union strike that it was going with, and the atmosphere was so strong in Running with the Demon. And then you have A Knight of the Word, which is set in Seattle, and I believe that all of the three books are set in places that Terry has lived at some point, because the first one's Illinois, which I know he lived, and I think he also lived in Washington, and then I think the third book is set, I want to say in Colorado, I think, and I think he lived there as well. But regardless, this is set in Seattle, and so maybe the rain should have been more of an atmospheric use, but the rain's not present. He writes it at a time when there is no rain, which was a really odd decision. And Terry doesn't focus so much on the city life as he could have. There is city focus going through the different parks, going past some of the buildings and the streets, but it doesn't have the feel, the atmospheric feel. And also, this book is set right around Halloween, where the first book was set around 4th of July. They made a lot out of 4th of July in this one, where people are going on holidays and picnics, and people are having a carnival. That's why there's like a Ferris wheel in the background. Like, all this stuff's happening that makes it feel like a 4th of July thing. And this is happening literally on Halloween. And so you'd think there'd be a whole lot of Halloween feel in the book, but it's not. And so because of that, it just feels uneven, and it feels just not as good because of that. Then also you have the mystery. The first book's mystery was okay. The second book's mystery is totally predictable. It was super obvious from the outset. In fact, about halfway through the book, there is something that happens that I think is meant to throw off the audience, but was so obvious, I was like, he is deliberately telling us this is who it is, but making the audience, he's trying to make the audience think that that's a red herring, but it's obvious that it's this, and I was right. I was right about it. And so I'm just very frustrated that the mystery wasn't more complex, wasn't more nuanced. I did the thing where it's like, oh, all the evidence is this person, and then nope, it's this person, and I was like, I totally saw you doing that. Like, there was no surprise there. So that was a little frustrating. And maybe that's because I've read a lot of mysteries, but mystery's not his strong suit here. Terry Brooks' strong suit is writing creatures of different races in his fantasy series, and writing about magic, and writing about atmosphere. And none of that really is present here. And, the magic is like a teensy bit in here, but it's really minor. And the whole story here is of John Ross basically abandoning his job as a Knight of the Word, and Nest Freemark has to go and convince him to pick it back up. And it just felt it just felt odd. It felt weird that she was just trying to go and convince him that she would leave from Chicago and go to him after so many years and be sent. And it was just an odd decision making. And then also there are characters that show up and it's like, oh, I'm from Chicago. I happen to be in Seattle too. And it's like, really? Really, you just happen to be in Seattle at the same time? Like, there were a lot of choices made here that I just don't think were wise decisions in the writing of the story. If there's one thing I will give a positive on, it's the themes in the book. This book deals a lot with the themes about social issues like homelessness and education and dealing with abuse. You don't read about abuse in the book, but there are abuse victims who are coming to this location to try to get help. And what I really liked was the way that Terry Brooks gave answers and gave solutions without it feeling preachy and without it feeling like a political thing. Like, it felt like he was giving honest to goodness solutions. And I think that anyone from any side of the political aisle would see his solutions and be like, yeah, I think that's not that bad. So I thought that this was really creative on that sense. And also he has themes about duty and devotion to your job and devotion to the morals of your calling. And I think religious people will very much feel that idea, that theme strongly in this book. So the themes are the strongest point here that I'll give it. But the plot and the atmosphere and even the characters, it was just odd. And so this book just didn't resonate with me. Because the themes were good enough, I'm gonna give it into the positive territory of my review. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5, or 5.5 out of 10, not 5 out of 5, 5.5 out of 10. So it's like just a hair over the middle. Because if it had gone below 5, it would not have been a good book. And above 5, you're like, it's okay. And that's where I feel about it. It's just okay. A real step down in one of his least good books. And Terry Brooks usually hits it out of the park each time, so it's kind of disappointing. So I will read Angel Fire East, the third book in the trilogy, next month. I'm 2/3 of the way through the trilogy. I'm not going to abandon it. I like 100%ing things. And then I can also say I only have a few Terry Brooks books left. But I will read that next, but it wouldn't require a strong landing for this series. This series needs a strong landing to save it. So that's my review of A Night of the Word. If you've read this book, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And what are your favorite Terry Brooks books? Until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.